Everyone in the galaxy feared the Plasma Squad. 8 elite soldiers who had never been defeated. Yet, one quiet human girl sent them all to the medical bay using nothing more than a cafeteria tray. I've been working security at the Vartani's maximum detention complex for 17 cycles. 17 cycles. I've witnessed Krellian berserkers tear through reinforced Durastel with their bare hands. I've seen Zephan psychics make 3 guards forget their own names simultaneously. I've personally restrained a molten core Draxi who was literally engulfed in flames, and I still carry the scars. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day Lieutenant Maya Reeves turned an ordinary lunch tray into a weapon of total humiliation. My name is Second S-Kicks, by the way. I'm a security officer, and yes, I know what you're thinking. Why is a Theolian, a species known for caution and risk calculation, working at the most dangerous prison in the Outer Nexus? Well, the pay is excellent, and my spawn needed upgraded biopods for their education. But after what I saw in Cafeteria Block 7, I'm seriously rethinking my career. Let me paint the scene, because the official incident report doesn't even begin to capture the absurdity. The Vartani's maximum detention complex houses 2,347 inmates from 62 species. We have Category 5 threats secured behind triple-layered containment fields. War criminals who wiped out entire moons. Pirates who've stolen things that shouldn't even exist, like emotions or the color blue. Our facility is outfitted with the latest Confederation military tech, staffed by personnel trained in 17 forms of combat, and defended by automated systems capable of leveling a small city. And yet, a single human girl, armed with nothing but cafeteria equipment, managed to hospitalize the Plasma Squad, our most elite security unit. Oh, you've heard of them? Of course. Everyone in the Outer Nexus has. 8 members of the Confederation's finest, drawn from special operations across 4 sectors. These weren't ordinary prison guards. No. These were the people you called when everything went sideways. A prison riot? Plasma Squad. Hostage situation? Plasma Squad. Reality warping inmate phasing through the hull? Plasma Squad. They wore custom armor, carried weapons worth more than my annual salary, and collectively had 112 years of combat experience. Their team leader, a Vorvathian named Commander Cray, had personally neutralized a rogue Sentinel-class war machine during the fringe conflicts. Another member, a Cassian named Rena, held the facility record for the fastest subdual of a hostile target, 9 seconds from first contact to full restraint. These were serious professionals with serious credentials, and they took their reputations extremely seriously. So, when Lieutenant Maya Reeves arrived at our facility 3 weeks prior, flagged as a Category 3 human threat requiring specialized transport protocols, guess who was assigned to her transfer? That's right, the Plasma Squad. The command wanted absolutely zero risk of complications. According to official records, this human had caused significant diplomatic incidents on 4 separate colony stations. The Confederation was eager to relocate her to a permanent facility without additional bureaucratic hurdles. Ironically, she had been a model prisoner up until that point. Quiet, polite, cooperative. She followed all protocols, never caused issues during inspections, and even said please and thank you to the cafeteria staff, a rare courtesy. Most inmates treated service personnel like stationary furniture, but Reeves would smile, nod, and engage in brief, polite conversation about the meal options. I remember Vix, one of my colleagues monitoring the facility, commenting that humans were likely less dangerous than the rumors suggested. That propaganda exaggerated their threat level for political reasons. Humans were probably slightly above average physically, and tales of berserker rages and superhuman endurance were likely cultural myth. I remember that conversation clearly because it occurred roughly 4 hours before the incident. 4 hours before the Plasma Squad confidently entered Cafeteria Block 7 to escort a calm human female for transport. 4 hours before Lieutenant Maya Reeves demonstrated to an entire maximum security facility that lunch trays, when wielded by a human with nothing to lose, could be far deadlier than plasma rifles. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain exactly how the Outer Nexus' most elite security team ended up in the medical bay with injuries that doctors initially attributed to explosive decompression or localized gravity failure. Spoiler, it wasn't either. It was just one human, one lunch tray, and a level of creative violence our risk algorithms never anticipated. Cafeteria Block 7 operates on a precision schedule that would make a chronometer jealous. Every meal period, every single day, follows the same protocol. Inmates are released in groups of 20, escorted by no fewer than 4 armed guards, and given exactly 32 minutes to collect food, eat, and return trays to the sanitization units. Tables are bolted to the floor, chairs magnetically locked when not in use, and utensils are made from a polymer that dissolves if removed from the cafeteria for more than 5 minutes. We do not take chances. The food itself is nutritionally optimized for multiple species, meaning it tastes like nothing and has the texture of what I imagine sadness would feel like if it were edible. But it sustains everyone and meets Confederation standards, so official complaints are pointless. On that day, second meal period, Lieutenant Reeves sat at table 14. I monitored her from Station 6, giving a full view of the cafeteria's eastern section. She had her standard meal, protein paste, carbohydrate blocks, 2 vitamin supplements, and a cup of juice, technically classified as flavored hydration fluid. She ate slowly and methodically, fork down, a small amount of protein paste, lift to mouth, chew exactly 7 times, swallow, sip juice, repeat. It was almost meditative. Other inmates hurried their meals, but Reeves remained calm, a detail that, in my experience, should have set off alarms. The calm ones are almost always the most dangerous. At approximately 14 minutes into the meal period, the cafeteria doors opened with their usual hydraulic hiss, and in walked the plasma squad. All 8 of them were fully armored, weapons powered but not drawn. They moved in tight formation, their coordination betraying countless missions together. Commander Craze led the group, his Vorvothian frame noticeably larger than the average humanoid. The rest fanned out behind him in a standard perimeter formation. The cafeteria went quiet. Not completely silent, after all, some species couldn't stop eating at once, but quiet in that heavy, focused way, where everyone kept an eye on their food while tracking every movement around them. Commander Craze approached table 14 with the confidence of someone who had never lost a confrontation. His voice rumbled across the room, a deep Vorothian tone you could feel in your chest before hearing it. Lieutenant Maya Reeves, Confederation Detention Registry number 749-2. Alpha, your transfer window has been scheduled. You will come with us now. Reeves looked up from her tray, fork midair with protein paste on it. She smiled, not threatening, not sarcastic, but genuinely pleasant, like greeting a neighbor who just mentioned their new garden. Oh, absolutely, Commander. I'll be right with you. Just give me a moment to finish my meal. I'd hate to waste food, you know, resources are precious. Craze exchanged a glance with Rena, the Quilixian at his left. There was a flicker of confusion. Inmates didn't usually ask permission to finish their meal. They either complied or resisted, triggering sedation protocols. This polite request wasn't in the standard manual. Craze considered it for 3 seconds, then nodded. You have 5 minutes. Don't make us wait. Appreciate it, Commander. Very kind of you, Reeves replied, returning to her meal. Fork down, scoop, lift, chew 7 times, swallow, sip of juice. The plasma squad took up positions around table 14, relaxed but alert, confident, like they'd done this 1,000 times with 0 complications. Rena even powered down her rifle to conserve energy. I saw her do it. Mag locked it to her hip. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was assuming a polite human was harmless. And mistake number 3? Standing within arm's reach of Lieutenant Reeves while she held a lunch tray. I watched her finish the last bite, drain the juice, set the cup on the tray, and look up at Craze with that same pleasant smile. All done, she said brightly. Ready when you are. She stood, lunch tray in hand, and began walking toward the sanitization units as expected. And then everything went spectacularly, violently, hilariously wrong. I was watching the security feed, thinking about filing weekly equipment reports and maybe getting some sleep after my shift, when Lieutenant Reeves proved physics is more of a suggestion than a law when humans are involved. She took 4 casual, unhurried steps toward the sanitization units. The plasma squad followed in textbook escort formation, 2 on each side, for bringing up the rear. Commander Craze was speaking into his comm unit, likely confirming pickup with Central Command. Then Reeves pivoted on her left foot with impossible speed for someone of her muscle density. The lunch tray swung in a wide arc, and I swear it made a high-pitched whistle, like the tray itself was protesting. The edge caught Rena square across the face with enough force to shatter her helmet's heads-up display. The Quilixian went down like someone had cut her power supply. Her arms flailed, she crashed to the floor with a sound that echoed through the cafeteria, and her rifle clattered away across the tiles. For exactly 1.7 seconds, according to the timestamp on my security feed, no one moved. Not the plasma squad, not the other inmates, not even me. We all froze, trying to process what had just happened. A lunch tray, yes, a lunch tray, had taken down one of the most decorated security officers in the facility. Then chaos erupted, like someone had opened an airlock to a nightmare. Commander Craze shouted something in Vorvathian that my translator refused to process, probably because it was mostly profanity, and immediately reached for his sidearm. Two squad members, a Dracian named Hole and a human male named Marcus Chen, went for their stun batons. The remaining four attempted to form a containment circle, the correct tactical response, except for one problem: this was not a normal opponent. This was a human who had clearly decided that today, she would stop pretending to be harmless. Reeves moved again, and I still cannot explain how she did it. Her body folded in ways that should have required at least 2 extra joints. She dropped low, spun, and the lunch tray intercepted Hull's stun baton just as it came down. Sparks showered the cafeteria floor, and the baton flew out of Hull's grip, spinning end over end, before embedding itself in the ceiling tiles 6 meters up. Marcus Chen swung his activated stun baton at Reeves's midsection. The strike should have connected. It would have connected, if Reeves hadn't angled the lunch tray perfectly to deflect it. The baton scraped across the tray with a screech of protesting metal, and Chen stumbled forward from his own momentum. That was when Reeves struck back. Not an edge strike like she had used on Rena, but a full-force impact. She gripped the tray with both hands and drove it like a battering ram into Chen's chest plate. The armor held, of course, but the force still sent him staggering backward, gasping. A Vox named Trill finally fired a stun round from his plasma rifle, which should have ended the fight instantly. Stun rounds are designed to overwhelm nervous systems across species; they cannot be dodged or blocked. Reeves raised the lunch tray at a precise 45 degrees angle, and the stun round bounced off, slamming into the lighting panel above. Sparks exploded, and half the cafeteria plunged into emergency backup lighting. I checked the recording 3 times later. I had to. She had turned a lunch tray into a functioning reflective shield against energy weapons. Not a single mark on it. Commander Craze gave up any pretense of non-lethal force and drew his plasma sidearm, the kind with a simple stun or vaporize setting. Judging by his expression, he wasn't planning to be generous. But before he could lock on, Reeves threw the tray like a discus, spinning it through the air so fast it became a silver blur. It struck Craze's wrist, discharging his weapon into the floor and melting a hole the size of my head into the tiles before clattering away. The tray ricocheted off a nearby table beam and spun back toward Reeves, almost as if magnetically drawn. She caught it midair with one hand, barely even looking, like it was a routine move before breakfast. By this point, I had activated the facility-wide alert system, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the security feed. It was like watching a natural disaster unfold. You know you should probably take cover or get out of the way, but you're too captivated by the scale of what's happening to look away. 4 members of the plasma squad were still standing, 4 highly trained, heavily armed security officers facing a single human with nothing but a lunch tray. Yet, somehow, I knew Trey was going to win. The remaining squad members had apparently decided that coordinated tactics were their best strategy, which was kind of cute, considering coordinated tactics only work if your opponent moves predictably. Lieutenant Ree was about as predictable as a quantum fluctuation in a dark matter field. A Kian named Zash came at her from the left, while a Fryian called Domrit approached from the right, a classic pincer move. Meanwhile, Halt had regained his composure, if not his dignity, and was moving to flank her from behind. The fourth, a Euron named Seth, hung back with his rifle raised, waiting for a clear shot that wouldn't risk hitting his teammates. Reeves didn't hesitate. She grabbed the empty juice cup she had been drinking from just a minute ago and hurled it at Sepha's face. Now, a juice cup weighs about 40 grams and is made of compressed biodegradable fiber. It shouldn't pose any threat to someone in tactical armor and a visor, but Reeves threw it hard enough to actually crack Sepha's visor on impact. The Urian flinched instinctively, raising his rifle to protect his face. His shot went wide, leaving a smoking line across the ceiling. In that half-second window, Reeves slammed her lunch tray down onto table 14 with enough force that one of the bolts anchoring it to the floor sheared off. The table tilted sideways at about a 10 degrees angle. She vaulted onto it, using the tilted surface as a ramp, and launched herself into the air. I'm not exaggerating, she reached at least 2 meters of height from a standing jump onto a broken table. Holding the lunch tray, she came down on Zash like a meteor with a vendetta, driving both knees into his shoulders. The Seltran's armor held, but the impact sent him face-first into the floor with a crunch audible even through the monitoring station's audio feed. Reeves rolled off him, still gripping the tray, and came up directly in front of Domrit. The Frosian unleashed a haymaker punch that could have shattered concrete, but Reeves ducked under it, swung the tray upward in an uppercut motion, and struck Damier squarely under the chin. His head jerked back, his eyes glazed over, and he collapsed backward like a falling tree. From across the cafeteria, I heard an inmate, a Grayan smuggler named Voxus, laughing. Really laughing. She's using a food tray. The food tray? How much do we even pay for security? Another inmate, whose name I never learned but who had 6 arms and a serious attitude problem, shouted, "I have credits on the human. Anyone want to bet against her?" No one took the bet. Several inmates were now openly recording the fight on contraband devices, which they definitely shouldn't have had. I made a mental note to conduct a full sweep later, if I survived the inevitable administrative inquiry that would follow this disaster. Hole finally reached Reeves from behind and wrapped his massive Dracian arms around her in a bare-handed grip that should have ended the fight immediately. Directions are absurdly strong. Their homeworld has 3 times standard gravity, and they're built for it. Hulk could bench a small shuttle, but Hole lifted Reeves clear off the ground, squeezing tight. I thought that was it. Fight over. Human contained. Then Reeves swung the lunch tray backward over her head and brought the edge down on Hole's foot. The armored foot supposedly rated to withstand a Class 3 explosive blast. Hole screamed, he actually screamed, and dropped Reeves immediately, hopping backward on one leg while clutching his injured foot. Later, medical would report that she had somehow found the exact spot where 3 armor plates met, a microscopic gap, and drove the tray's edge through it with enough precision to fracture 2 of his toe-equivalent bones. Precision with a lunch tray, while being held upside down in a combat grip. I pulled up the slow-motion replay later and watched it frame by frame. The angle she chose, the way she distributed her force, the precise point of impact, it wasn't luck, it was calculated. In the split second before striking, she identified the weak spot in his armor, adjusted her swing mid-motion, and delivered a perfect disabling strike. The security analysis AI flagged the move as impossible, based on human reaction time parameters. I submitted a report recommending a significant update to those parameters. Seth had just cleared his visor and was lining up another shot when Reeves grabbed a sealed protein paste container from a nearby table. She flung it with a sidearm motion, hitting Sepha's rifle right at the power cell junction. The container exploded on impact, covering the weapon's energy port with beige nutritional paste. Sparks flew, smoke rose, and the rifle immediately malfunctioned. Seth stared at the ruined weapon, then at Reeves, then back at the rifle, before making the sensible choice to retreat, backing away slowly while attempting to clean the paste from his mechanisms. From my monitoring station, I observed Commander Cracy pull himself upright, cradling his wrist. Marcus Chen had regained enough composure to breathe normally and was reaching for his backup weapon. Trill was recalibrating his plasma rifle for a follow-up shot. That left 3 still combat-capable, well, maybe 2.5 if we accounted for Trace's wrist injury. Reeves stood in the center of the cafeteria, surrounded by groaning plasma squad members, holding that lunch tray as if it were Excalibur. Her uniform was flawless, she wasn't breathing heavily, and there wasn't a single mark on her. Then, an elderly Throsian inmate, imprisoned for 40 years for crimes I wasn't cleared to know, set down his fork. His raspy voice carried across the room, "I fought in the Krellian Wars. I have witnessed orbital strikes and chemical warfare. I have seen full battalions erased in seconds, but this was the most controlled violence I have ever observed." A few other inmates even clapped. Chen pulled his secondary weapon, a compact plasma derringer, and pointed it at Reeves, his hands unsteady. "Drop the tray. Drop it now, or I will fire." Reeves tilted her head, studying him with calm, professional curiosity. "Officer Chen, that's a Mark V derringer. Correct?" "Yes. Effective range is roughly 8 meters. Rate of fire is limited by the microcell recharge cycle. You are currently standing about 11 meters away from me." Chen's grip tightened and then steadied. "I'm a certified marksman. I don't miss." "I don't doubt that," Reeves replied evenly. "However, you're positioned directly in front of the sanitation unit's chemical storage tank, the one clearly labeled with hazard warnings. If you miss, or if the round passes through me, that tank will rupture and release industrial-grade cleaning agents into this cafeteria. Those chemicals are corrosive to approximately 90% of the species present." I checked the alignment. She was correct. Completely correct. How she knew the exact placement of the storage tanks was unclear, that information wasn't available in any inmate-accessible system. Chen lowered his weapon, slowly and deliberately. Commander CRA spoke, his voice tight but still authoritative. "Lieutenant Reeves, you assaulted Confederation security personnel. This adds decades to your sentence. Surrender now, and I can ensure you receive a medical evaluation instead of immediate punishment." Reeves smiled that same calm, polite smile she had before. "Commander, I was just finishing my lunch like you instructed. It's not my fault your team decided to stand in the splash zone." She then walked to the sanitization unit, placing her lunch tray in the correct receptacle exactly as protocol required. Turning back to the plasma squad, most of whom were still on the floor, she raised her hands in surrender. "All done. Ready for transport whenever you are." The medical bay report was intriguing, if your definition of intriguing includes phrases like unprecedented blunt force trauma and injuries that didn't match any available weaponry. Rena suffered a concussion, a fractured cheekbone, and what the doctor described as cognitive dissonance regarding the structural integrity of cafeteria equipment. She repeatedly asked how a tray could hit that hard until sedation was necessary. Hole required surgery on his foot, 2 fractured toes, remember? The medical AI initially labeled it as crush damage from an industrial press. When told it was actually a lunch tray, the AI requested a full diagnostic reset, assuming it had malfunctioned. Marcus Chin had 3 cracked ribs despite his armor absorbing much of the impact. He spent 6 hours in the regeneration pod and another 3 in psychological evaluation, insisting that the tray had moved faster than his eyes could track. The psych team attributed this to shock. Donner needed dental reconstruction. Zash sustained a spinal compression injury. Trill's hands were still shaking 48 hours later. Seth filed a report claiming his weapon had been sabotaged but withdrew it after ballistics confirmed that protein paste isn't sabotage, just extremely effective improvisation. Commander CRA ended up with a broken wrist, a bruised ego, and a formal reprimand for catastrophic tactical assessment failure. He argued that no reasonable security protocol could have predicted a lunch tray being weaponized to that extent. The command showed him security footage from 3 other facilities, demonstrating how humans had improvised weapons from ordinary objects, a mop handle, a towel, and, in one notable instance, a decorative plant. New protocols were enacted within 72 hours. Protocol Update 774 Alpha, Human Interaction Guidelines. All humans classified as Category 3 or higher are now considered armed at all times, regardless of whether they actually carry weapons. Cafeteria privileges are limited to reinforced polymer trays that dissolve after 15 minutes. No rigid utensils, glass, or ceramic containers are allowed. Meals are served in edible bowls made from compressed nutrients. Additionally, a mandatory training course has been introduced, Environmental Weapon Recognition and Human Capability Assessment. Every security officer must complete it. The program includes 12 hours of instruction on how virtually any object can be turned into a weapon by a human. There is even a 2-hour segment dedicated solely to trays, their materials, types, and potential strike patterns. I attended the first session. The instructor, a seasoned Vortian who had spent 30 years in prison security, began with this warning. Humans are not stronger than most species. They are not faster. They are not more durable. But they have spent their entire evolutionary history converting ordinary objects into weapons, and they are astonishingly skilled at it. He was not exaggerating. The legend of Lieutenant Reeves spread through Vortani's maximum detention complex like a virus across an unshielded data network. Within a week, every inmate knew the story. Within just 2 weeks, news of the incident had spread to other facilities. By the month's end, I even overheard a transport pilot from 3 sectors away casually referring to the human who had incapacitated the plasma squad with a lunch tray, as if it were common knowledge. Reeves herself was transferred to a specialized containment facility built specifically for high-risk human prisoners, triple redundancy in every system, no hard surfaces, and meals delivered via pneumatic tubes. I was told she arrived without any issues, fully cooperated with intake procedures, and has remained a model prisoner ever since. Honestly, that frightens me even more than the cafeteria incident. Her ability to remain calm, pleasant, and cooperative, while also capable of the actions I witnessed, shows that she controls when and how to be dangerous. Every moment of her apparent peace is a conscious choice on her part. What I've learned about humans over my 17 cycles in security is this: they are not mindless aggressors, nor are they uncontrollable forces of nature. They are methodical, adaptable, and patient. They can smile, say please and thank you, and act polite, right up until the moment they choose to remind you exactly how they earned their place at the top of their planet's food chain. I still work at Ferrani's. The pay remains solid, and my spawn still require educational support. But now, I observe the human inmates differently, more cautiously, with the kind of respect you reserve for a dormant volcano or an unexploded munition. And I never, under any circumstances, position myself within arm's reach of one during mealtime. Here's the truly ironic part: after everything, the injuries, the facility-wide panic, and the protocol revisions, I went back and reviewed the footage one last time. At the very end, right after Reeves placed her tray in the sanitization unit and submitted herself. You can see it clearly if you enhance the image and adjust for the emergency lighting. She was smiling. Not a threatening smile. Not a triumphant one. Just that same calm, polite expression she had when Commander Grace first approached her table. The kind of smile someone wears after finishing a satisfying meal and moving on with their day. 17 cycles in security. And that smile is what lingers in my mind because it captures everything you need to understand about humans in a single glance. They don't feel the need to prove their strength. They already know it, and they will quietly wait for you to realize it yourself, usually right at the moment you wish you had brought more backup and less confidence. Lieutenant Maya Reeves taught the Plasma Squad that lesson using nothing more than a lunch tray. I learned it by watching. And now, so have you. Approach your human interactions with that in mind.